I'm a typical guy.
Good evening. Welcome to the Andescog Historical Society. And I'm David Young, president. And I'm going to introduce Doug Hodgson, who will introduce the speaker tonight. Thank you for coming.
Good evening. When our program committee put together our series of programs for the year, we realized that there is a museum up in Turner that should be recognized, and there's an area of our history that we don't know much about. And so we said, well, why not take advantage of somebody's close by who knows something about snowmobiles and snowmobiling. And so I contacted Paul Bernier to come and give us a talk about the history of snowmobiles, about his museum and how it started, and we would learn something that we didn't know before. So Paul Bernier is the proprietor of United Sports, which is up there on Route 4 in Turner, and has this snowmobile museum right here in Androscoggin County, and we figured we should know about it. So I'd introduce Paul to give us some insight.
Well, first of all, I want everybody to have a ticket so you didn't waste your gas coming down here. Someone's going to win #2 snowmobile. It's a replica of actually the second snowmobile that Polaris ever built. And if just keep one to keep it until you get one. So at the end, somebody will end up with the toy. Basically, I grew up here in Lewiston, Auburn, and my parents had a camp up in Hartford, Maine, and as a kid I drove by Bryant's Auto Cat. It was a snowmobile dealership. When I got in my teenage years, I stopped there one day and wanted a snowmobile, and of course I didn't have the money, so long story short, before the day ended, he let me buy one on consignment. And most of the summer I paid for it, and at the end of the summer I hadn't paid for it, and you could see my face, I really wanted to drive it. There was snow out there, so he let me take it, and I paid for it, and I think it took most of the next summer to pay for it. And when I finished paying for it, he asked me if I would work for him, because those were the years when Auto Cat had a callback on every motor that they built. So I worked for him that season and learned pretty much what there was about rebuilding an engine, and kind of left it at that. And a few years went by, I would visit him a little bit, and he always told me I would own the Auto Cat dealership. I kind of blew it off. But one day I walked in there and he said, well, now's the time. I said, well, you know, I don't need any money. I says, I don't have any money. He says, well, you don't need any. He says, your credit's good here. So basically, I started the Auto Cat dealership with hardly no money and a $300 a month payment, and Paul's Auto Cat was born. And so Elton Bryant was really the person responsible for me getting into the snowmobile business. 15 years of being at Paul's Auto Cat. Now the snowmobiles had evolved from a really rough riding snowmobile into a rough snowmobile into a independent suspension and what have you. So people would come in with these old 70s snowmobiles, and nobody wanted them. So if I had a good seat and a hood, I decided I'd take them. And I got them for almost nothing, and I had a chicken barn I used to rent to put boats in, and I threw them up there. And I did that for 15 years. And so when I sold the place in '99, I went up there and realized there was 100 snowmobiles. So that was kind of the beginning, and I had a distributorship at that time working out of a garage, so I decided I was going to build a building. And it was going to be 250 feet long, and anyways, they got cut in half, and half of it, my sleds went in. And started putting the sleds in and realized it just wasn't financially feasible, so I said, well, maybe I can sell some clothing and some trailers and have a museum. So, I don't charge for the museum. And when you walk into the museum, basically those are all signs from the era. They light up, and you got a few sleds there, and everything you see there is snowmobile related, because back in those days, like this is a Chrysler Snow Runner. They actually, I don't know if they gave them away, I guess some of the Chrysler dealerships, they came apart and you could buy one, and Chrysler would sell those, and you bought a car. Sometimes they gave them away, or you could buy them. And Articat built bicycles, Polaris built all-terrain vehicles, and then in the 70s there was all kinds of toys. I mean, duplicates of everything. Today these all were battery operated. I mean, a lot of people probably remember these main decanters. They had some spirits in them, and the models, you could build them. And believe it or not, I come across some of these that are still haven't been uncorked yet. I just can't imagine what that would be. And over here is just the four walls of just the showroom. And this was Articat. It's like, can you imagine walking around today with, your purple suit with 2 inches of hair? And that helmet actually has fur on it. And that jacket, that purple jacket, that was a windbreaker for races. But it's amazing, the clothing that they wore. And I mentioned Alton Bryant, and he came to visit me 2 summers ago, and he passed away last summer, but he, like I said, was the guy who got me going. And beside that white Articat is a 1966, and it's hard to believe that's 1966, but that year is when everything changed into from steel chassis to fiberglass, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. So what I just showed you was the showroom. A lot of people walk in and they go, oh, this place is alright, whatever, So they go to leave and they'll say, well, the museum's out back. So you open the door and they'll look at one wall and down the other, and their jaws drop because they only expected to see the front. So that's basically, the museum. I don't want to show you all the sleds because then you won't come and see it. But the real beginning of snowmobiling was Armand Bombardier. People talk about Skidoo, but he built mostly Model T Fords with tracks and big, heavy utilitarian things. But the person who actually built the first snowmobile that would glide over the snow and actually go into, because there was no trails. So Kyle Eisen had a bum foot. He was an avid hunter, and he wanted to go skiing with his buddies, but he couldn't. So he decided that he needed a small machine. So he decided that he was going to invent one. So in 1924, he owned a general store. So he has a general store. He has a lot of mechanical intelligence, so he decided he was going to build the first snowmobile. And basically, it took over 2 years